From shopping to sightseeing, gardening to exercising, perhaps one of the aspects of our lives that hasn't changed from our caveman ancestors is the fact that we walk. One of the most basic forms of bodily movement, so basic we seldom think about it. But walking isn't just a movement, it isn't just a way of finding your location, it's a way of exploring the earth. In this series, I'm walking the length and the breadth of Norfolk. I'm exploring the villages and towns along the way, inspecting the landscape and achieving views that only walkers can access. I started in the first programme at the very tip of North Norfolk and walked along the North Norfolk Coast Path. This week, join me, Daniel Evans, in continuing that journey along the Paston Way. The Paston Way is 22 miles, and the walk takes its name from the Paston family, who throughout the medieval and Tudor periods were wealthy landowners in the area. There are still traces of the Paston family along the walk. The 22-mile Paston Way is one of the finest trails in Norfolk. It offers the tranquility and the peacefulness that the idle ambler just loves on a summer's day. From arresting vistas of the coastline to the serenity of the open countryside and grazing meadows, this meandering route also takes in 14 beautiful medieval churches along the way, accessed of course by quiet country lanes and footpaths. But let's start from where we left our walking boots in the last programme, the important seaside resort of Cromer. I say important, but until the 13th century, it's had a very quiet history. It's not mentioned in the Domesday Book, and only one Saxon artefact has been found in the parish, a late Saxon spearhead. The name Cromer is recorded from the 13th century. It means lake frequented by cows. Not exactly what you'd want to put on a postcard. Thankfully, since then, it's gained a much better reputation. Nowadays, Cromer is famous for its tasty crabs, wide open beaches, a traditional pier and a small local independent shops. Its lighthouse and lifeboat service has been said to be the lifeblood of the town.
But perhaps the most famous landmark here in Cromer is this, Cromer Church, and it has the highest tower in Norfolk, a symbol of its wealth during the medieval period.
The stones I'm walking near here have been polished by the souls of some very famous people. William Cromer became Lord Mayor of London in the 1400s, and Roger Bacon rediscovered Iceland at the end of the 15th century. I could spend the whole day walking around Cromer, but the Paston Way doesn't walk itself, and there's plenty of little settlements just like Cromer along the way. The next village, for example, the fashionable resort of Overstrand. How it came to be known as Overstrand remains a contested argument. Strand is Old English for shore, so it could mean narrow shore with a steep edge. Whether that's the origin of the name or not, people have been living here in Overstrand for centuries. It has quite detailed information going back to the Norman conquest. We can find out by going to that all-important reference book, the Domesday Book. Overstrand, I head back onto the Paston Way to continue my walk. I'm on my way to my next location, Gimingham, but before I get there, there's something to check out along the way. It's called the Shrieking Pit. Doesn't sound particularly serene. It's actually a mysterious tree-shaded pond. A local legend tells of a young woman, Esmeralda, who is said to have drowned here. Whether it's true or not, I'm not so sure, but many believe they have heard screams emanating from here throughout the night. My next location is much less spooky. It's Gimingham in northeast Norfolk, a lovely village along the Paston Way. It's a fairly small village, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in visitor interest. Roman pottery has been found in the centre of the parish, including 2 brooches and late Saxon pottery. We know a lot more about its recent history. In the south of the parish, for example, a workhouse built in 1805, but was converted into 14 cottages in the middle of the century. Mundesley Hospital was built in the east of the parish in the late 1800s, and it was the first large TB sanatorium in Great Britain. Further along the Paston Way, and we find ourselves back along the seaside in a pretty seaside village of Mundesley. Mundesley is a site of special scientific interest. The cliffs have attracted some geological study, but as much as I like looking at the cliffs, there are some other points of interest off the beaten track. The Mundesley holiday camp, built in 1933, was the first purpose-built fully catering holiday camp in Norfolk. The camp was laid out in the shape of a nearby windmill. Along the cliff top too are the remains of a 14th century church. It was a ruin until the early 1900s, when it was restored thanks to its increasing popularity. On the north side, the Norman slit window is the oldest original feature.
The best thing about the Paston Way for me is that it brings out the history in this blessed county. Wherever you are on the Paston Way, you're no more than about 6 feet away from an ancient relic or an ancient ruin.
That history is preserved and celebrated, making the Norfolk story a truly spellbinding one. It's a story that continues along other trails in the county. Next week, we'll start from where the Paston Way completes its journey, in the town of Norfolk, and from there, join me on the Weaver's Way as I go in search for more of Norfolk's most celebrated landmarks.